everybody. Thank you for joining our podcast, Moms on the Move. I'm Jen Wills.
And I'm Jennifer Sisk.
My new co-host.
Yay!
So we had a plan of talking with people today, and COVID happened. So we said, let's have a conversation. So as you know, if you're part of the moms group and, my dear friends and family, I talked last week about what happened. So we decided this week to have a podcast on just being raw and authentic.
Real.
Real.
What we deal with on a daily basis, or how we got where we are.
Yep.
Or how we're not defined by our stuff.
Right. And how everyone has stuff.
Yes, they do.
Bigger conversation. So that's how I kind of explained to the moms group, I've kind of created this platform and this podcast, and the point of it is to be authentic and real and, have an understanding of each other, because we all have the same struggles, or if not the same struggles, then the same feelings that go along with those struggles, whether it's anxiety, stress, exhaustion, just all of it.
Well, we all have things that we do to compensate, but when you strip down and you remove the layers, we're all the same.
Right. So there just needs to be such an understanding. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of the moms group. And that was part of the goal that I had with this. But anyway, so all that to say, I had a seizure last Sunday, and it was pretty bad. And so I was kind of open, and I didn't send a photo of my face. I kind of shielded, but I hit my face, and EMTs were called. It was at 4 a.m. And I admitted to people finally, because I have never done that I have had epilepsy since I was, I don't know, I was diagnosed at 14, but it had been before that probably. So yeah, I have been dealing with epilepsy for the past, I don't even know.
Since you were 14, which I didn't even know.
Nobody knew.
So when I got the text the morning, of course I tried to FaceTime you immediately so I could see you and, walk through it, talk through it, make sure you're okay. And you didn't answer.
No.
So, but I didn't know. And then when you started to talk to me and you started to tell me what you had dealt with your entire life, because really it is since 14. That's a long time. And you've carried it this long.
Yes. And I feel like the reason that I never really was super open about it and I hid it for so long was because in my head, it's just this weakness. It's this thing that I don't have control over, and that it doesn't control me. It's a controlled illness, but it shows you what happened on Sunday when I missed one dose of medication. What happened?
It got you.
And so it's just it's something that I deal with every day. I take medicine twice a day, and again, it's this vulnerable feeling and this weak feeling, knowing how reliant I am on something. And there's just a lot of feelings that go with that. For somebody who, I tend to think I'm a strong person and can deal with stuff. And then there's that part of me that is just weak.
Well, out of your control.
Out of my control. So.
But it doesn't define who you are.
No, it doesn't. But I do know that there was definitely that part of me that was always trying to hide that. And yes, my closest friends knew about it, but honestly, only because I think some of them were there when I had one of my big ones. I've only had 5 grand mal seizures in my life, and 2 were hormonally based. And the others were because I was drinking and forgot my medicine. So one was on my 21st birthday celebration. So all my girlfriends were there. God bless them.
So that kind of probably marks your life. Those are times in your life that kind of slowed time down, and you think back, 21st seizure.
Yeah. Yep.
Because Mom's on the Move, year anniversary almost. Seizure.
Seizure. Yeah.
Kind of marks your timestamps you, I guess.
Yep.
A little bit.
I do. All those big seizures were just like very vivid memories that, you go through it, but then there's like a little bit of a mental aspect to it after, where you just kind of feel off and you feel like, like I told my mom last week, I was like, I just feel mad. I'm angry. Because I felt like normally when I have them, you can't see it. But this time I hit my face and my whole mouth was busted and my eye was black. And it was just a different, I was like mad. I was like, I already deal with the emotional aspect. I don't want to have to see it too.
Yeah, how dare you do this to me? How dare you?
How dare that door beat the hell out of me?
How dare, epilepsy do this to me? I have things to do. But you know what? That was the catalyst to get us here. And when you told me about it, the first thing I thought, and of course I have my own stuff that we'll talk about, but first thing I thought with yours was you get in front of a camera.
Yeah.
And the courage or the worry.
Yeah. I mean, it's super controlled, as much as it sounds like it's not at the moment. Again, if I take my medicine like a good girl, then I am good. And they never come out of nowhere. So it's not like, I have to ever worry like, oh, I'll be driving and it'll happen. I get like an hour in advance notice of like things start.
Yeah, you said something about your leg.
My leg went numb. Mm-hmm. That's what woke me up. And then I called them like little jerks.
Little warnings.
Yeah. So like my whole body, like little ones. And then the grand mal is like the grand finale, and then it's the end.
Somebody had a question about it being hereditary or not. Mm-hmm. So talk a little bit about that.
Epilepsy, it can be hereditary. Mine is not hereditary. No one in my family has it. I was in a car accident when I was young, and I hit my head on a window really hard and like blacked out. So when they did, some scans, they found scar tissue. So that's what they think started it. Mm-hmm. So, but, I think, again, part of this conversation is not to say like, oh, look at my problems. That's not it. It's to show you that everyone is dealing with something. You would have never known this. I probably would have not talked about it had this not just happened. I would have just,
And look at the support when you reached out or when you posted.
It was the support, but I think on top of it, I got so many messages about like, I deal with this, or like my daughter's dealing with this. Just people have their own stories, and I think it gave them a little bit of courage to come and like talk to me about it. So I felt really, really good that I opened up the way I did.
I was really proud of you.
Really don't regret it at all. I felt, and my sister was like, you also look like your husband kicked the shit out of you. So you probably should come forward and say he didn't.
Well, the outpouring of support. And then when you start talking, it's like with anything, or even what I do with my job, if I start talking about my stuff, then their walls come down.
Right.
And then they start talking.
Yeah.
And it gives them a safe space to share. There's silver linings in all of our stuff.
Right.
It got us to where we are. It made you courageous. It made you strong. All of those things.
Yeah, I feel like this is, again, people would have never known this. I went through high school with this. I went through college. When I was 14, I was diagnosed with the wrong kind. So they kept putting me on different kinds of medication, and they'd have to increase my dose. And it would, every time they increase your dose, it gives you just, for me, it was anxiety, a little bit of a depression, until I kind of got used to the medication. But I was on the wrong medication, and it ended up it ate away at my spine. So I had osteoporosis when I was like 18, and you would have never known that. I played soccer, I played lacrosse, I ran track. And so that's the stuff that I'm saying. You see social media, and a lot of people have issues on social media because it makes them feel bad. It makes them feel bad about themselves because they like log on and they see all these like smiling, happy faces, and they think, my life isn't like that, but it's such a blip. People put up their perfect little blip, and that's not even their life.
No.
And that's the message.
No, and behind all of our eyes is a struggle or an issue or a disorder or an addiction, a diagnosis. Behind all of our eyes, there's another story, and we don't show that side. And you don't see that on social media ever.
Right. And I mean.
And some do, but
right.
We will. We do. You did.
I did.
And some do. But
and I don't want to use it as a forum to say like, oh, woe is me, and this, and complain. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's just, again, the realization that it's not a reality, and that comparing yourself to anybody on there is just, it's so silly to do, because social media is fake.
Yeah, it's Facebook.
It's fake.
Yeah, and it's not our identity. It's not who we are.
So
we're
tell
so
us
much
about
more.
you.
We're so much more than that. Yeah, me.
Yeah. Well, what got you to be the life coach?
Yeah. So
that everyone uses.
Yeah. To be an effective life coach, you have to come back from something that had you on your knees at some point in your life. And when I didn't know it, but I had an eating disorder that started at 11 years old. So I was a child. Didn't know I had one until I was 42, and I was at my lowest ever, where I had binge eating disorder, and I was wanting to eat an entire pie in the dark in a room while my family was in another room. And that was my low. And I was 42 years old. And I thought, you know what, Jennifer, what is this? You're strong, you're a good friend, you're a good wife, you're a good mother. What are you doing? What is this compulsive behavior that honestly was so strong that it felt like a gun to my head to do it? It was that strong. And I think it was my lowest point that day or that night that I got up, threw it away, and then started to look in and research my symptoms, because that's all I knew were the symptoms, which was eating large amounts of food in a short amount of time, to the point that you're so full, you're not hungry, you zone out. Then there's extreme guilt associated with it. And just like bulimia and anorexia, binge eating is right there with them. We just have different behaviors. So I reached out to my doctor, and then ended up with an addiction specialist, not so much an eating disorder specialist, because I had adopted this behavior in childhood, and went to this person who was a recovered addict, I think twice a week for 9 months.
Okay.
And recovered.
Wow. So is it something you hid from everyone?
Yeah. Most eating disorders you try to hide, but then it becomes obvious. Physical symptoms, of course, extreme weight loss with the other two, but with mine, you would just up and down roller coaster in weight. You would be on diets constantly. Trying to control it, I would binge one day, and then the next day or two, I would eat it all. So up and down in emotions and feelings and weight, and one diet after another, which was, which completely just exacerbated the situation. It made it much worse.
Right.
Trying the next thing, not realizing that I had an eating disorder, which you have to have help. You have to have support for that.
Right.
I needed a psychologist for that. And that's what I found. And that's how I recovered. The hardest part about an eating disorder is the hiding and the shame and the guilt and the self-loathing that you feel, that I felt for entirely too many years of my life. Too many years. And I don't deserve that. None of us deserve that. But I'm not my eating disorder. But when you start to talk about it, or when I told my husband, when you're saying what you do, it sounds crazy. And then you realize, like you said, that you're hiding it. So then you feel like a liar. And then you're not sure if other people think, well, if you lie about that, then you can lie about other things. And I felt terrible. I felt even worse. So I was elated that I could see that there was support, that there was help, that I had something wrong. But then I was terrified because I had something wrong.
Yeah.
And I wasted 30 years of my life not knowing this.
Right.
However, one of the things that the psychologist said to me was, you overcompensated your entire life, so you're stronger than anybody could possibly imagine. And that carried me.
Yep.
Still carries me.
That's like super important, I think, for anyone to hear that.
Yeah, especially as long as I had been, enduring this and didn't know, so I thought I didn't have any self-control. You're a loser. You just want to eat too much. It was so much bigger.
Is there something in your brain? Like, what is it exactly? Is there like is it like a mental disorder type?
I think it runs in the family a little bit.
Okay.
I don't know how to explain it at a clinical level.
Yeah.
But it does require some rewiring of the brain. And I had to rewire my brain extensively because it had been a habit. It was my best friend. It was how I coped. I didn't deal with my feelings or deal with stress. I looked like I did. And then behind the scenes, I would push those feelings down with food. It's an immediate gratification that real quickly turns to guilt and disgust in yourself and self-loathing. So it was...
Such a roller coaster.
It's a prison.
Yeah.
It was a prison. But you rewire the brain, which I work with people that I rewire them on not a clinical level, where you literally take your schedule, your routine, and the things that you do, and you flip it. And you do things different so that the brain doesn't fall back on those same behaviors all the time. So if I'm doing the same stuff, then my brain only knows to go where it was, which was to binge. So I started slowly, and it took time, to replace some of those automatic thoughts and behaviors with different things. So the brain had to work differently to get to the end of what I was doing. So literally, if I went to the laundry room 10 times a day, I had to go twice because my brain was in a routine and was hardwired to be a certain way and to do certain things, go to certain stores. You change your routine, you change the wiring of the brain. And if you work at it hard enough and believe in yourself and then find those pockets of space where you have a choice to change, that's where it happens. A lot of us think, I have an addiction, I have a disorder, I can't change it. You can.
Yeah. You
can. There's times where it's quiet, where you have the ability to go, I can change this. I am stronger than this.
I think I had talked to you about this. We're just getting real deep, guys. But it goes to the addiction again. So my husband doesn't drink anymore. He's been sober for like 3.5 years now.
We did talk about this.
Yes. But it was, again, that like addiction, and he would just play these games with himself for years with his binge drinking. And he was a binge drinker. He was not like the type that had to wake up and have an out. He was fully functional, but if you gave him one drink, he was going to drink 16.
You rationalize everything.
Yes, and he would rationalize all of it. It would be everything. He would have a bad day at work, so he would need a beer. He would make a really good commission check, so he was going to celebrate. We would be getting along great, so he wanted to enjoy our time together and get me a glass of wine, and he wanted to have a beer with me. We would be fighting. He would want to everything was a rationalization. So like, I don't know how he did it. He did it all on his own, which I'm not going to recommend.
I've known a few that have. There's support, and reach out for it. I would not have been able to do what I did without support.
Yeah.
I was too deep into it, too long, too hardwired. But there are some, and I have a couple clients who have recovered on their own.
From addiction? Have you worked with anyone with like an eating disorder?
I do, but they have to have, if they're in the throes of it, they have to have a therapist along with me, because anything clinical I'm not supposed to touch.
Right.
I'm not.
You don't go there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not, a whole lot more schooling goes into someone that helps people like me. The man that helped me.
Yeah.
He was a recovered addict, but he was a psychologist. He was a professional. And I am as a life coach, but I don't do anything clinical.
think that's what makes you such a good life coach. I do, because I think you've been in it, and so you're not, like, you can relate to a lot of the stuff.
I can relate to being on your knees with yourself.
Right.
And offering hope and showing you that the possibilities within you are endless, and you may not even be aware of them.
Right.
But once we start talking and we start digging and we start to understand the power within you, there's no stopping you.
Do you is there really such a thing as like rewiring your brain?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I do it on
because I hear like people like go look in the mirror and be like, hey, girl. I don't do that, but maybe I should.
Well, you can, that's part of it, is to try to find the good thing. But here's something with me, is I have dysmorphic disorder as well. Okay. Which means I look in the mirror and I don't see what's really there. Mm-hmm. Just like anorexics would look in the mirror and they would see themselves as very big, and they would actually, the psychologist would have them lay down and they do a chalk drawing, mm-hmm. a chalk drawing around them to show them visually what their size is. We don't see what we really are. So I still struggle with that. It's not as severe as it was, and I think that's part of wiring as well. But I would look in the mirror and I would see a much bigger girl. I would see a double chin. I would see chipmunk cheeks, things that really weren't there. However, if you took a picture of me, I could see the real me in the picture because the brain didn't flip that. And I don't understand a lot of that. That's above my pay grade. But that is what I deal with. So when I have bad days, I take pictures and I look, or I go put on my pants and they fit. And I'm not what I see. Mm-hmm. So that therapy would not have worked for me. But I do say you can reverse those negative critical thoughts with positive ones, because if you allow the negative ones to take rent, then you can allow the positive ones to take rent. We default to negative.
Yes, we do.
As a nation, we default to negative,
yes.
But we also default internally to negative. Mm-hmm. And you can replace those thoughts. I have people write them down, the negative thought, and then you write down the opposite. You interrupt the thought because mm-hmm. it's wiring. It goes back, which also, if you have the same routine every day, you have those same thoughts. If you put the same clothes on all the time and you don't buy anything new, you have the same thoughts. Mm-hmm. Everything is all connected. So when you start to resist and go against what is always you're always telling yourself, you will have pushback. Your brain will push back because it wants to go back to what it's comfortable doing. It's just like when someone stays in a bad relationship or even an abusive mm-hmm. relationship or has a chaotic life. That may be all they know. And their brain rationalizes going back.
Right.
Just like my binging. I knew
because it was a comfort.
Yeah. I knew binging is not good. Right. I'm doing it and it's not good. It's not pretty. It's ugly. It's not healthy. But I did it anyway mm-hmm. because I didn't feel like I had a choice. But there's moments with anything that any of us are going through where it stops for a second and you realize you have a choice, and that's where your power is.
Mm-hmm. And then they call you.
Yeah.
We just filmed an episode where we talked about autism, and all of us were like, wait, is she all our life coach? You are.
I was so proud.
Yeah. But I think that kind of even shows what we're trying to say right now. The common denominator amongst us is not perfection. It's having issues and covering them up, which is fine, but just understanding that you don't want to compare yourself because you never know what's going on. And there's people who look so together, they might, have a lot more going on, right. Whether it's family issues or marital issues mm-hmm. or children that have special needs and they don't talk about it. I mean, it's so important, I think. And that's why I wanted to be so open today, was just getting that message out that we're more alike than we're not. And that my problem might not be your problem.
But we all have a struggle.
We all have
a struggle.
Yeah.
And we can put on the pretty face and the cute clothes, but behind the eyes, there's a story. Mm-hmm. And everybody has one. And everybody's story matters.
Yeah.
And that's what we hope to do with Moms on the Move. We hope to be there, support, lift one another, understand one another, give you a safe place to talk and to share.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of it. And I'm proud to be here.
I know. I'm excited too. So we actually, real quick, before we wrap this up, we have something coming up. We have a little e-blast coming up. Yes. So we are partnering with a few different platforms in Greenville, and we're going to have kind of a landing page. And I'm super, super, super excited about this. I'm not doing it. It would be too ugly. We have a girl we hired to do all this.
Yeah, she's good at that.
She's good.
But it's another amazing way to stay connected and keep on top of things and to know what we're doing and what's coming next and to share.
Yes.
I love it. I'm excited.
I know. I'm excited too. And so we want to hear from you. If you have any suggestions for topics, we've been talking about what we should do coming up, and there's so many great ideas. We have great podcasts coming up. But we do want to hear from you. And so just know we're here to listen.
Reach out. If you have a story, reach out. Mm-hmm. We want to hear it regardless.
Yeah.
And we're here for you.
Yes. I know. So thank you, everybody. And thank you for being my co-host.
Thank you for being my I love it. We're right where we're supposed to be.
I know.
Thank you.
Thank you to our sponsors. Truly, thank you to our sponsors. Nest Realty, Parham Smith Archenhold, Blackacre Law, Bodyworks, and then Southern Girl Chic, who keeps making us feel good. And then we buy all the clothes.
Yes, yeah.
So, and then we wanted to
It's okay though.
And then we wanted to thank Penny Posies. She is our florist now. So if you have any floral needs, please call her, because she's literally doing this out of the kindness of her heart.
And
it was
just
perfect. So great.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I know the holidays are coming up if you want like a personalized arrangement. Anyway, thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you next time.